Hello everyone. Hello, welcome to this new release. And today is the second release of the year, and sometimes we do some release that we feel are too big for a single blog post, and this time it is this time for this kind of release. So we have a lot to cover this month. We have a lot of new features coming, quality of life, major improvements about backup, continuous replication. Of course, we improved the VMware migration tool that we created last month. So Oliver, I will let you discuss of everything coming soon. And let's go, let's dive in.
Thank you, Mark. Indeed, as you said, that's another rather large release, and I think that's kind of a common thing right now, since the team is working truly full speed to provide you a lot of new stuff, but also improving what's existing while also working on the future. We'll start with let's say a new feature we bring in this release, which is the OpenID Connect support. So basically, this features is allowing you to connect to log into your Xen Orchestra using OpenID Connect. It's a protocol, a set of things that allows you to connect securely between Xen Orchestra and a dedicated single sign-on platform. So in the blog post, I explained a bit how to make this with Keycloak, which is an open source platform for doing sign-on. Red Hat is behind the project, and it works pretty well in both SAML and OpenID Connect. But OpenID Connect is really, I would say, a modern way to connect because it's using a modern protocol, JSON, and so on, where SAML is using XML and things like this. But anyway, so in the blog post, I explain step by step how to create first the Xen Orchestra application into your single sign-on platform. What to provide as client ID, client type, and so on. Obviously, to enable client authentication, to be sure that you will use the authentication mechanism built in when you are connecting with the OpenID thing. So it's not complicated. And if you scroll down to down the thing that's explaining the three main stuff you need, the client ID, the client secrets, and the auto discovery URL. So that's the only three things you need to configure on the Xen Orchestra side. And so just, on the bottom, you will see how to use those keys into your configuration or to your plugin for configuration. And just with it, when you enable the plugin and then you refresh and you unlock, for example, you will see in Xen Orchestra, you will have a new button on top of the username and password thing called Sign In with OpenID. And if you click on this, you will be sent to your single sign-on platform. And for example, that we use for our own production here at Vates, our single sign-on platform, Keycloak, is using user federation, meaning it will connect to the LDAP directory we have, meaning I don't have to manage accounts in a split way. It could be integrated fully inside your infrastructure. And also it means if you use OpenID, it's very safe, meaning that you can even if you need expose Xen Orchestra to the internet. But if you use OpenID with Keycloak, for example, with a TOTP double authentication with your phone, or for example, I don't know, a USB key, for example, a dedicated crypto key, then that will be very, very safe to connect to Xen Orchestra remotely, even if it's exposed on the internet, thanks to the OpenID protocol delegating every security for authentication to the SSO platform and not inside Xen Orchestra. So that's an important feature that we are really proud to release this month. The next one is not new. We already, I think, thought about it since the last three releases, with including this one. But the VMware migration tool is now that we call V2V, or virtual to virtual, or VMware to Vates, is now can be used directly in the web UI. Before that, you had to rely on the CLI to make the migration from VMware to XCP-ng, and it wasn't really complicated, but it's still a CLI. Now we exposed all the features directly into the UI. So that's the first UI version, which is rather simple. You put the credential and IP of the VMware details. So you go to the menu import from VMware, and then when you connect, you will be able to decide where to move the VM of your choice to a destination. So you have a selector, you will be able to select the VM you want that will be on the VMware side, and you just click on import, and that will do the trick for you. Since it's the first UI version of this V2V tool, be aware it's not yet fully complete in a way that we want to, for example, if you use the thin mode, it will take longer to make the transfer, and you won't have any visible task doing the transfer. So it might, if it's a very big VM, take multiple hours without any feedback. So this is clearly something that will be improved for the next release, because we'll use the internal EXO task system that is also will be used for the next big release of Xen Orchestra number 6. So this is kind of under the hood work that is almost done, and that will be reused even in the current UI to provide you a clear, let's say, comprehensive steps on what's going on during the transfer. Also, right now, it still works on the VMware side on ESXi 6.5 and earlier, but not after that, because of the way the Delta protocol changed in the most recent version of VMware. We also hope to get that sorted for the next release. So with some luck, we'll have in the March release something that could be launched as, let's say, V2V 1.0. And so you could have the first official release of the tool with everything working in all the cases, regardless the VMware version, and so on and so on. So the next important feature that we released this month for this February release is related to the pool metadata restore. So this is the feature we already had in the past, but since it wasn't possible to configure the details on the restore, it was not just usable in the end. So we managed to get some time to really finish that. And now when you restore a pool metadata, so just to give you a bit of context, it's worth restoring the metadata in one case. In the case where, for example, let's say you have one host connected to a SAN and you had, I don't know, 200-300 VMs connected to that SAN, you just lose your XCPNG on that machine, you lose all the ZAPI database, or it's corrupted, or whatever. The disk, the local system disk are dead. You maybe don't want, after reinstalling a fresh XCPNG on it, import all the backups, since the SAN is still working with all the VMs. So that's where restoring the metadata is really convenient, where it will just restore all the content of the ZAPI database, and then all the VMs, names, description, disks, and so on. It will find back all the configuration to your SAN, and so on and so on. So that's where it's worth the shot to using. And now the UI provided to make this restore is working very well, and you can even, if you like, restore metadata on multiple hosts at the same time. So it's very powerful and flexible. And in the case of you are using only the ZAPI database, that's truly your friend to avoid a long restore of all your VMs if your storage is still, working correctly. So a rather important feature that we are happy to provide you for this release. So the next one is a health check in the continuous replication. So it's been a while that we introduced the health check for backup, what we call the auto restore check for backup. In fact, it was in last May for the May release, and we decided that we could improve this health check thing by also applying the same mechanism, the same way of working for your continuous replication. So a quick, let's say, feedback on that feature is basically when you replicate a VM to a destination using Xen Orchestra CR, at the end of the replication, automatically, if you enable the feature in the backup section, it will boot a copy of this VM without the network, wait for the tools to be visible, and if it's the case, then we consider that the VM is booting correctly into its OS and then getting the tools information, so the backup is fine, it's not corrupted. And then we destroy this copy, and that's it. And when the backup is finished, after replication and testing the VM, you will have a backup log with telling you we both tested, we both made the backup itself, the replication, but also the test. So this way, if you are if you truly want to be certain about your backup, this is a way to test them for each replicated VM. So it's very, I would say, convenient to be sure your backup is actually working, because sadly sometimes if you discover your backup is dead the day you need that, it's worthless. So that's another extra layer of security for that. Let's move for the REST API thing. I think you are aware also, since maybe the last 5-6 release, that we started to develop a REST API on, I would not say on top, but on the side of the existing API, which is right now the API using JSON RPC inside WebSockets, which is perfect for managing, for example, when you are using ExoWeb, the web client, it's using this API. WebSocket is great because you can have all the events displayed in real time, but when you just want to fetch some information or send some basic order, it's more complicated to work with it. So that's why we built the REST API in parallel of the JSON RPC over WebSocket API. And this month, we are releasing something that is just more than getting information on VM or host or whatever. It's sending actions to your VM. So in very short, you can, if you want, start, reboot, or shut down, or even snapshot your VMs through the REST API. Because those operations could take some time, obviously. Starting a VM is not instant, or like rebooting it or doing a snapshot. We had to implement a way for those actions to be async. And so by default, they will be async. And if you want to take a look on what's going on what VM, for example, you can just, send an HTTP request on the object on its actions endpoint, and it returns the list of, I don't know, the task VM is rebooting, the VM is starting, and so on. So that's very powerful because you can send the HTTP request without waiting for the return and just monitor the action to see if it's done or not. However, if you want to be in sync mode, you can also force by using the question mark sync the query string into your HTTP call, and then we will just return the results when it's done. So we made it to be entirely flexible depending on what you need, if you want to wait for the return call or not. And so you can do that for now directly the REST API. So in the example we are giving into the blog post, it's basically using a curl command, which is very simple, but obviously anything able to send a get, a put, or whatever basic HTTP command is very, very simple to use for whatever kind of integration you want to make inside your existing infrastructure. Let's move on the Lite thing. As you know, again, Lite is meant to be a very small, lightweight version of Xen Orchestra with basic features bundled directly inside your XCPNG host. And we are still making progress. So we integrated the tasks visible directly on your host in the dashboard in the task tab of your pool. So this is convenient to monitor. For example, when you will import a fresh Xen Orchestra appliance, you will be able to monitor the progress directly there without having any previous Xen Orchestra installed, obviously. So this is something which is truly convenient, especially in the bootstrap phase of your infrastructure. And we also added the list of the updates available for your host. So even if you lose your main Xen Orchestra, if you have only one host, then you could rely on Lite to get those kind of information. Okay, then we got a MISC category about various things. I would say it's very minor stuff, but still useful, like having more checks when you do an XOA check. That's for people using Xen Orchestra Virtual Appliance. Now we are also checking the free memory, which could be helpful in case you don't have enough memory to run for the backup and so on. We added a warning message for the PV tools. If you try to enable the Windows Update PV tools for VM, and if you don't have the Citrix tool, then at least you will know this is dangerous. So this is also helping people to avoid doing mistakes. And we improve the backup logs to display the fact when you are using NBD. Just a quick reminder regarding the NBD backup. It's indeed faster than the basic VHD transfer, but it's still not production ready. So if you want to test it, don't forget that is not meant for production right now. But anyway, now we'll be able to see directly into the backup logs if you are using NBD or not, which is also helpful to debug when there's some problem. And also the last part on a blog post, which is already published, but I will just make a quick recap here in very short. If you are using Kubernetes inside your infrastructure, you might be interested by this. So in very short, the project Pyrgos is a way to improve our current recipe to deploy Kubernetes, but to be able to not just deploy, let's say, toy Kubernetes projects, but full production ready Kubernetes clusters. And for that, we have a lot of enhancements to do, but we have a planning, a backlog. And so we hope that in the next months, we'll be able to add features on this basic recipe to be able to have multi-control plane, to have better, rules when you create your cluster, but also to have basic information on the cluster, and maybe also in a few months to be able to update a cluster that you created with Xen Orchestra when there's a new version of Kubernetes. By the way, it's very close to the rolling pull update thing that we use for XCPNG, so we are kind of used to build that kind of features. So we truly hope that in the next 6 months, we should have already a product that we could consider production grade or production ready to work with Kubernetes. And if you are interested, feel free to read the blog post in details, and we'll keep you posted on the progress on this. And I'm pretty sure in the March release, we already have some cool features on that aspect. So that's it for me, and I let Mark doing the last words for this live.
Yeah, thank you, Oliver. So just a little announcements. We are going to the CloudFest at the end of the month. It's coming really soon, and we will have some new stuff to announce during that event and after that event. So stay tuned to all our communication channel because stuff are coming. And additionally, about the V2V features, not that we have a forum thread to collect your feedback. So as we are currently implementing the web UI in XUA, we are really eager to have your feedback. If you are trying the feature inside XUA, it's still time to provide feedback so we can improve it even more. So that's it for me, I guess. And it was already a pretty long release note. So, Oliver, do you have anything
No, that's
else?
it. That's
okay,
it.
So thank you, everyone. And we will see you in March with a lot of new stuff coming too.
Thank you, everyone.
See
Bye-bye.
you and bye.